Mayor and Commissioners to order today at 2 o'clock on Friday, December 15th, here in the Commissioners' Room at Rehoboth Beach. Thanks all in the audience for joining us and all those at home. We hope to keep you entertained out there also. If you will have, if you'll notice one difference up here today, Mayor Mills is under the weather, so I will be acting as chairman of the board today, and we will start then with call to order. And then we'll begin the second with the Pledge of Allegiance. If I'll ask you to stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll go with roll call. Commissioner Preston.
Here.
Commissioner Sharp.
Here.
Commissioner Chernowski. Mayor Mills. Commissioner Gossett here. Commissioner Bennett.
Here.
And Commissioner Market.
Here.
So let the record show that Commissioner Chernowski and Mayor Mills are absent from today. There is no reported correspondence to deal with any of the topics today, so we will move on. And we also have no minutes to approve today, so we will move on to the next item, which is the City Manager's Report. Evan Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. Good afternoon, commissioners and members of the public. With the holidays upon us, I want to remind everyone that City Hall will be closed Monday, December 25th and Monday, January 1st. There will be no residential waste collection on the holidays. Instead, citywide waste collection pickups are scheduled Tuesday, December 26th and Tuesday, January 2nd. When we return in the new year, we'll begin meeting with the commissioners to develop the city's fiscal year 2025 budget. I anticipate a total of 4 to 5 special budget meetings to be held on the same days that workshops and regular meetings are scheduled, beginning January 19th. Tentatively, the meetings, how I'd like to approach the budget meetings are as follows. The first meeting, again, would be January 19th at 9 a.m., and the topic of that meeting will be contributions. Those contributions for the fire company, the public library, Main Street, and the Historical Society. Meeting number 2 would be February 5th at 2 p.m. During that meeting, we'll cover the enterprise fund revenue and the capital improvement plan, and departments that we will plan to cover are streets, fleet, comfort stations, building and grounds, water, wastewater, parks, and recreation. Meeting number 3 will be February 16th, 9 a.m., and we will cover general fund revenue and also CIP. And the budgets, or the departments, will cover our mayor and commissioners, treasurer, administration, finance. Finance will actually be a separate department this year in the FY 2025 budget. Alderman, information technology, building and licensing, parking meter, and parking permit. Meeting number 4 will be March 4th, 2 p.m. During that meeting, we'll cover public safety and again CIP. So the departments will cover police, dispatch, beach patrol, and then we'll also include bandstand and communications. And then the final meeting, meeting number 5, will be March 15th at 9 a.m. That'll be a final review of any outstanding items and budget adoption as well. Certainly this schedule is subject to change as well, in particular some of the departments that we'll cover at those meetings. Certainly as changes are made, I will keep the commissioners and the public apprised.
Mr. Chairman, Evan, will you let us know that in writing?
I will, absolutely.
Appreciate that.
On the Laurel Scarborough paving project, a punch list item related to storm drain inlets will be addressed today and Monday, weather permitting. The beach nourishment project was officially completed with the planning this week of grasses on various sections of dune. Also, next week, storm water inlet repairs and patching on Sussex Street will take place. Some detours will be in place as work progresses, but access to homes will be maintained. Finally, on the beach patrol project, preliminary site work continues and environmental controls are being installed. Demolition of the building is anticipated around late January. We're coordinating with the Rehoboth Beach Patrol for temporary facilities next season. We anticipate that the Beach Patrol will utilize the Delaware Avenue Comfort Station and a rented portable facility at the city's parking lot located between the VIA and the PA Railroad property to serve beachgoers next season. And that's all I have to report.
Any questions for the city manager?
I do.
Okay.
For the last couple of meetings, I have asked specifically if anyone has received an official email from the Historical Society regarding the hiring of the new I don't know if the title is executive director or director. Has anyone received that and I'm the odd one out?
I received a email from the new director introducing herself and requesting a meeting with me for coffee. But beyond that, no, personally.
Commissioner Sharp, I got a similar email, but also similar to the chairman, I did not get a notification.
I bring it up because I thought, having brought it up for the last couple of meetings, maybe the Historical Society would take the hint that it just seemed courteous to me when a new person comes on board that the organization would let all the commissioners know as a courtesy, and obviously that has not happened yet. So I may continue to ask about it just to get that on the record. The other item that I've asked,
Ask a quick question about that. So was the invite for coffee, was that not the introduction?
she introduced herself.
Okay.
Well, she was present at the meeting that they had.
It's not really a debate.
Okay,
It's not really a debate.
all right.
It's a matter of courtesy, that when a new person comes on board, one would think, especially as a commissioner has asked about it the last couple of meetings, that someone would take 60 seconds and write an email. But obviously, that's not happening.
Okay.
The second thing is that I've asked about in City Manager Interim, I just want to know if you have any additional information on the status of the diorama.
Yes. I've actually tasked Margaret Carson with working on that, so she is in the process of developing the arrangement for the diorama to be displayed here at City Hall, so.
So do you have any idea, any shaping of that arrangement? Like, what are we thinking about, when it might happen, when we might get something so that it can actually move forward? I think it's great
Sure.
that the city is going to step up and house something quite relevant to our history.
Yeah.
And since we have to fill that role, obviously, it's important.
Yep.
And I'm wondering when we can actually get the show on the road.
Sure, so we we had gotten some preliminary ideas together this week, and then I imagine next week Margaret is going to work potentially with Alex to develop some type of understanding for the diorama to be displayed here, mainly in terms of liability, so who would be responsible should the diorama be damaged, the exact location of where it would go, because again, occasionally the atrium is used for interviews with the media as well. So I wouldn't anticipate longer than a couple weeks before an arrangement is made, so.
Okay, and I would just ask those involved to, since it is over the holidays, maybe not make this terribly complicated and just get it done. Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions? Just follow up on the diorama.
Yes.
And you just included in your updated report, if you will, to determine if that is a loan to the city, a gift to the city, or what is the status of the ownership of that?
Sure.
With regards to either a memorandum of understanding or just an agreement that is reached between the two parties. Sure. Thank you. And approval of street aid? Do we have
Yes.
street aid?
Thank you, Commissioner. We do have one street aid expenditure. That is, thank you. Total of $20,937.41 payable to Delmarva Power and Apple Electric. I actually did get a question about the street aid expenditures and specifically the amount. I think it was this time last year, and why the amount was so high. And Vicki Hatton from the accounting department or from the finance department did confirm that we do have Apple Electric come out and do, before Sea Witch Festival, they check out every single light that we have on Rehoboth Avenue, just to make sure everything's working properly, sockets are working properly. So there was a little bit of an added expense related to that work, so that is why the expenditure is that high. Again, the amount is $20,937.41, $9,710 payable to Apple Electric, and $11,227.41 payable to Delmarva Power.
Do I have a motion to approve street aid expense?
Move to approve as noted.
Second. Thank you. Commissioner Sharp made the motion, and Commissioner Preston seconded the motion. Thank you. Any other questions for the city manager? Thank you. We'll go to City Solicitor Report, Alex Burns.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Certainly.
The only thing I have is a brief update on the library's proposal to modify the deed restrictions for lots 76, 74, and 72 at the Rehoboth Library location at 226 Rehoboth Avenue. So on Wednesday, the Rehoboth Library's attorney, Jay Becker, emailed us some draft documents to modify the deed restrictions. We're still waiting on a few more documents, but it's a work in progress, and we're moving towards the proposal.
So once we've received that information, then you will review the documents, make your edits or suggestions, and then bring it forward to us for review.
Correct.
Great. We anticipate that first workshop in January, perhaps?
Perhaps, yeah.
Great.
Mr. Chairman, just for, I can't remember, where are we on that? I mean, I understand that this will come back to us, that we've agreed on nothing yet, as I understand it.
There was a consensus, if memory serves me correctly, a consensus to move forward with exploring, basically change the deed restrictions from one lot that we currently hold to change those to the other lot, which would allow the library then to proceed with their renovation of the building at that point in time. We want to keep those same restrictions on the deed that was originally developed by a previous administration, and just working through the legal aspects to see that that is manageable and we can accomplish that. And it would, then those deeds would then be re-recorded at Georgetown as part of the agreement.
Thank you. So that's where we are in the process. I remember Commissioner Markert asking a question about the size of the lots. I don't know if he asked about the value of the lots, but did we get an answer to your question?
Yeah, we had the report.
Correct. There's, in an executive session previously, we were shared some real estate information of market studies that were completed. So we do have that information.
Got it. Thank you.
Anything else, Alex? That's all. Great. Thank you very much. Questions for the city solicitor at all? Thank you. Just call your attention to the departmental reports, which are embedded in the agenda, which appear on the website. There's a lot of work and effort that go into these reports, and I would ask everyone to take a look at them. We have the Alderman Court Report, Building and Licensing Department Report, and Code Enforcement. That's for the report of November of 2023. Fire Department, Police Department, and the Communications Report, specifically with statistics that come back from Reach Out Rehoboth. I don't know if we have many of those department heads in the room with us today. If anyone has any comments that they would like to highlight on any of those reports. I see an overwhelming no, so that's fine.
I do have a question.
Oh, yes.
On the particularly with Reach Out Rehoboth, so there's lots of residents that have given ideas or recommendations. Where do those go after those are posted?
We have Lynn Cohen with us, our communications manager. She can respond, I hope. Thanks.
Good afternoon. So those ideas are posted on the idea page. They will remain there on Reach Out Rehoboth on that particular page, but then they also are presented to you each month as part of that report, the departmental report that I've provided. So I guess if there were ideas that you wanted to discuss, it would be up to you as a group to determine if you wanted to discuss them.
Thank you.
Actually, Commissioner Bennett brings up a good issue that I don't know that we have a particularly strong process yet for how things that are important to the commissioners actually do or do not wind up either at a committee or wind up on Reach Out. So we may want to think about that after the first of the year.
I would add that to the agenda, and further that comment in reviewing those, the response that is provided, I think, so that we do know that we've heard from the stakeholders, is that we will present these information to the commissioners for review or comment, what have you. So I do think if at some point in the next couple of months, if you could draft a policy so that we're aware of what they are and what our expectations are, or the expectations of the community and our response, so that we can address those issues as they come forward. Some could be certainly addressed by department heads or existing policies and code that is in place, but others should be brought to the attention of the commission for review and action. So, thank you. We have received no board and committee reports for this past month, and or commission reports. We would also then, committee reports, I've received no committee reports at that time. We do have liaison reports, and I see with us Carol Everhart. You would like to come forward and share with us your report? That would be great.
So, thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate that. I'll give you a little legislative update first. This paid medical family leave is going forward. You should know that if you're trying to get grandfathered, you must have that in by January 1. And this will take effect January 1, 2025. So any grandfathering that's done, that has to be in. We've put out many alerts and information to the business community. I think one of the things that employees may not be aware of is they pay a part of this. So when that first time hits, it's really something that the business community and everybody needs to educate themselves on. So we'll be continuing to send out alerts until the 1st, but just so you're aware of that. The visitor guide is underway. It will go to the printer end of December, and typically we get that back within 4 to 6 weeks. And the advertisement for 2024 is in process and is being placed. I believe you received the occupancy. Am I right, Evan?
Say that again?
The occupancy reports, did you receive that?
Yes, they're.
Yes.
Okay, okay, thank you. I just want to point out, I tried to indicate more clearly what 2019 was compared to 22, compared to 23, because we really have to look at 2019. And when we look at the whole zip code, 2019 on a Wednesday, 83,339, 2023, 96,694, so that went up considerably. But Saturdays, the weekends, 126,642 in 2019 to 126,448 this year. So that's pretty solid. I've asked many people, why do you think that Wednesday is bumping up? It's probably associated with price of the rooms, most likely price of the rooms. The other thing was November, just downtown, okay? I don't have 100% of downtown as far as short-term rentals, that type of thing, but what we do collect, our members, it's just most of the downtown, hotels, motels, those types of facilities. You went from, in 2022, 9% week 1 to 15%, from 11% week 2 to 27%. Week 3, 17% down to 11%, probably weather. Week 3, 18% to 24, and week 3, 6% to 12. Saturdays, a mixed bag there also, but pretty consistent. 54%, both 22 and 23. Week 2 in November, 39 and 55, probably weather. And 36 to 35, 30 to 34, and 22 to 54. So it's all over the board, what's going on. I think it seems to be mostly associated with whether you're having an activity or the weather. That's what's going on. And then I did provide the Sea-Witch report.
Carol, excuse me, before you go any further,
Yes.
just would it be possible for the December report for rooms occupancy to give us a complete spreadsheet for the entire year so we could look at it holistically?
Yeah, they can probably do that.
Okay.
Yeah,
that would be
yeah,
great.
I think we could do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I just wanted to make sure we did place it into the Cape Gazette. It is on the website. It's been pushed out on Facebook and other social means. We did invest total, we brought in 163,434, and we spent 200,579. So we invested 37,145. I don't have what I would call accurate numbers for attendance. I'm waiting for the final traffic report because we use a formula for that. I can tell you that accommodations were considerably up, which you saw in the last report. And certainly visually, and the overview appeared to have 60,000 on Friday, at least 100,000 on Saturday, and another, I'm sorry, yes, wait a minute. 40,000 on Friday, 100,000 on Saturday, and 60,000, which would match last year. So I just used that because I don't have anything that's what I would call accurate. I'm happy to answer any questions.
One question, if I may, and this is for discussion at later with regards to our budget. I noticed that you have, under the visitor's guide, scheduled to go to the printer by the end of December. And we always advertise our parking rates within that and times. And I know there is discussion coming up with regards to the parking study presented in January. So I know in past, if memory serves me correctly, was there a page held or something of that nature?
Yes, I can always hold 2 pages that they go ahead and print. They hold those 2 pages, and then when we say go, the whole thing's printed.
If I could ask the city manager to be in contact with Carol Everhart to kind of arrange that to make sure that we're on the same page. Thank you. Any questions for?
I do.
Oh, yes,
Carol,
Commissioner Sharp.
speaking of the visitor's guide, do you ever have any plans to transition that to completely online?
It's online in Page Turner right now, but the demand is still there. Part of our funding comes from Southern Delaware Tourism, which is the accommodation tax. That money must be spent in a way that proves the results, okay? So if I place an ad in, I don't know, Better Homes and Gardens, and they're offering leads, I better be able to prove that whatever amount of money I paid has come back in results. Same way digitally, but they like the hard leads. We can track, if it's a hard lead, it's so easy to track. I mean, you ask for the book, I mail you the book, I know where it went, who got it, I have no problem, verifying everything about it. Digital, I might get counts, and I might get some of it, I can get some area, but it's not always enough to prove that that advertising worked. I can tell you who got it, when they got it, everything about it. And when I go to verify the funding that I've got, I can show them that.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay.
The other question I have is, did you have anything further on the Sea Witch final report, or no?
No, this is it. What I've sent to you is it.
I thought it was great, and I was reading it, especially the enforcement and security section, and tell me what I'm missing. I didn't see the Rehoboth Beach Police Department,
They're there. It's
so
in the-
help me find them.
I believe that that's listed in enforcement.
Yes.
So you don't see that in there?
I must be reading right through it, because I still don't see it.
Well, it's the Rehoboth Beach, oh, that's Volunteer Fire Department. I think we missed it. But they definitely were in there.
So just to put a fine point on it, are our police officers included in this expenditure of almost 39,000? Are they in there, or would you want to check
Let me
that?
look again, hold on. They should be in enforcement. And I can tell you what happened with that, too. No fault of the security forces at all. We have a fencing company that comes up and puts the fencing up, the safeguarding fencing for the parade, and takes it down. The company we typically use was sold. And while we had the same sales rep, it's a different company. They were supposed to get the fencing down by 5-ish. It was almost 8 o'clock. We wanted it to be safe. So we said, well, just keep paying the police, hold them over. But Rehoboth was definitely in there. That's my error. I didn't catch that, but they were definitely in part of the billing.
Okay.
Am I right, Chief? Okay.
Any other questions for Carol? Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have the Historical Society. Commissioner Markert, any comments for Historical Society?
I haven't really engaged with them. I do have a scheduled meeting with the new director on January 5th, I believe.
Great.
So,
Thank you. We'll have a report back from that meeting. Main Street is up next. Commissioner Chernowski is not here, but I see in the audience Dan Schlegel and Richard Burns, Dick Burns, if we have comments.
Good afternoon, Commissioners and City Manager. Just wanted to start off by saying that Rehoboth Beach Main Street has submitted our grant request on Tuesday, November 21st, and we look forward to the Commissioners' meeting on January 19th at 9 a.m. to present our budget request. Please note that the budget request was completed by the RBMS Rehoboth Beach Main Street volunteers, and no paid employees worked on this. So we're really proud of that fact, that the volunteers had an impact on this. As you may well know, we've had a very busy fall and a holiday season with supporting many local events, including our College and Town Awards, Community Unity Dinner, Holiday Stroll, and tomorrow our Reads Across America ceremony. And of course, we've always enjoyed participating in the Rehoboth Beach Christmas Parade. Also, I wanted to let you know, I've been walking around town a lot these last couple months, and the temperature downtown is very positive with our holiday season with sales. So I'm glad to hear this. That does include retail and restaurants and many of the downtown merchants. I'm getting a lot of positive reviews. Some of the retail stores have broken records for the last couple years, so that was pleased to hear. So it seems like we're having a busy holiday season. So I just wanted to share that little information with you. The RMS team and I are gathering information required for the 2024 national accreditation for the National Main Street America. So we have to meet a certain criteria to be accredited each year, which enables us to provide grants for our merchants and other benefits. They have changed the rules this year. There's a lot more involved. We are in the process of working on that. So fingers crossed we get accredited. As the executive director of RBMS, I have attended a few workforce housing meetings, including a town hall meeting with Senator Hustable. It was very informative of what they're working on for workforce housing here in the area. I've also most recently attended the Southern Delaware Tourism Summit, and a lot of it was about leadership and moving forward in this area and what's going on. So just to let you know, I have been attending these events. I think it's important for me to be informed. To come back to you. We are using our website, social media, and our newsletter to promote off-season specials for our restaurants. We found that this year, a lot more of the restaurants in the area started earlier with the off-season specials, and a lot more are providing specials. I think it's great to promote getting everyone downtown. So we are promoting that. We are excited about the 2024 and our spring events, starting with the Gumbo Crawl first, fashion show, and this year it was called Oldies Dance, now it's called Blooming Dance Party. So we're changing the name on that, and also our Margarita Crawl. These events will help promote our restaurants, retailers, and provide visitors with a unique experience in our beautiful downtown. Across the members. So we're really excited. On January 11th, all the main streets across the state of Delaware, we are hosting this event in January where we will have a conference at the museum, which is involved. We have about 30 to 40 different executive directors and other state officials attending this meeting. We're hoping that we can invite the mayor and the commissioners to attend. They will get a tour of Rehoboth through the Jolly Trolley above the dunes and have lunch. So we're very excited to show off our beautiful town to other main streets across the state of Delaware. So we're looking forward to that. Saving the best for last, for myself, very, very excited to tell you that on Wednesday, December 14th, Rehoboth Beach Main Street won Best New Event for the 2023 Margarita Crawl. We were honored to receive this award. We believe our events draw visitors and residents to our downtown business in the off-season, and we were very excited to win that award. So any questions for me at this point?
I don't have a question. I just wanted to publicly and on the record thank Main Street for all the months it hosted the diorama.
Thank you.
I think that was a very nice accommodation, and I'm glad that the city is going to be stepping in for at least a short period of time.
I'm very thrilled.
Thank you for doing
City's
that.
Thank you.
Commissioner.
Dan, I do have one question for you. You mentioned your engagement on workforce housing.
Yes.
In a nutshell, you don't have to give a lot of details, but how did that discussion go?
It's very positive. You know, there's a lot of units that the state of Delaware are short of, I believe like 17,000 units short of housing units that are needed across the state of Delaware, and Sussex County being one of the top counties that is in need. They are working very hard and trying to work on a budget for the state of Delaware to provide that workforce housing. And I think that the biggest issue is they're trying to change the codes for, you know, to be able to provide this workforce housing in the area, as much as I've gained so far.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah, hi, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, always a pleasure to be here. Commissioner Sharp, I just want to, for the record, because you have continuously brought up the diorama over recent weeks, and just to let everyone know, for the record, and to clarify what the situation has been, because we have heard some rumors that have not been true. And so about 2 months ago, our Rehoboth Beach Main Street Board of Directors put out a statement, and I'm sorry that it did not go to all of you, although recently I did share it with the mayor, the interim city manager, and with Margaret, I believe, and maybe it came then to the rest of you. So if you'll be patient with me, let me just read through this, because I think it is a good explanation for your comments just a couple of minutes ago, Commissioner Sharp. So to whom it may concern, the Rehoboth Beach Main Street Board of Directors and Paul Lovett, the builder and owner of the Rehoboth Golden Age Railroad History Diorama, have agreed that because of space limitations in the RBMS office, it's time for the diorama to be relocated. We anticipate that the diorama will leave the RBM office around the end of this year after a nearly 3-year stay. Details on its new location are yet to be available. Rehoboth Beach Main Street has been honored to house the incredible historic display for these last several years. Paul Lovett has hosted hundreds of individuals in the Main Street office as he tells the fascinating history of the city of Rehoboth Beach, utilizing the diorama. And then in this release, as president of the board, I make the statement, while the diorama has been a very popular attraction and one that has been very good for the Main Street organization, simply put, the space is now needed for day-to-day office functions at RBMS. Clearly, this well-developed and well-researched historical model of downtown Rehoboth Beach from over 100 years ago will be sorely missed. So we found ourselves, and as the relatively new president of the Board of Directors, having to go out and rent space for our board meetings. And it hit me after doing that a couple of times, like, we do have a boardroom. However, the diorama has been there, and it's been a pleasure for everyone, but it's been 3 years, and it's simply time to move on. We're busting at the seams, which is a really good problem to have. That means we're successful. Things are going very well, but we do need the space. And so that's simply the only reason that Paul has been out looking for space for this, here at the museum and so on and so forth. And it will be missed because it's been a wonderful attraction.
And Mike, I want to be very crystal clear. My comments are certainly not a criticism. It's
Right.
a compliment that
Yes.
Main Street had stepped up to that. It's somewhat astounding to me that it had been there for 3 years, and we yet have found a permanent place for it. But that can be a discussion on a different day, possibly. But it does beg the question, where is it going to reside permanently? Mm-hmm. But we'll take it one baby step at a time. And once again, I think it was a very proper thing for Main Street to do for a longer time than I had realized. Thank you.
And thank you, Commissioner. And on behalf of Main Street, we're very pleased that the city is seriously considering being able to house this wonderful project, at least for several months. Thank you very much.
Dick, I'm sorry, if I may have one question for you. The follow-up on an earlier comment basically made by Dan also. Dan, you commented about the success or taking the temperature in downtown.
Yes.
And Dick, you had referred to a few meetings ago that you were going to attempt to collect data on this type of information as opposed to taking the temperature and everybody's happy inside. Have you been able to take any steps to create hard data on that, and how would we
Our
know about
economic
that?
vitality right now is working on a survey.
Okay.
But we want to encompass the survey with different items too, not just everything, because we don't want to bombard so many surveys. So we are in the process of work on it. Great.
And do you anticipate that as being an annual survey or periodic?
Seasonal. is what we're
Seasonal.
looking at, yep.
Okay, great. And other follow-up on the January 11th meeting, do you know when an agenda would be available for?
Within the next week, for
Great.
sure.
And you'll get that out too?
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you very much. Any other questions?
One tidbit of data that relates to this wonderful award that we were given by Southern Delaware Tourism just 2 days ago for the Margarita Crawl. Almost 650 tickets were sold for that event. And so we do track the data of where folks reside that are buying the tickets. And over half of those folks that bought tickets live out of state, outside of Delaware. So to me, those are folks coming in for a specific event, but then they're spending the entire weekend here doing a whole lot of other things, hotel rooms and meals and hopefully some shopping.
Great. Thank you very much.
And Cindy is going to
Oh,
share.
Cindy, I'm sorry. Hello, Cindy. How are you?
Hello. Happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you.
So this morning, well, this afternoon, actually, we unloaded 17 cases of wreaths over at the Upworth Cemetery with the help of Dan and Dick and a bunch of other people. And tomorrow's a big day. It's Wreaths Across America. We're really excited. 3,500 locations around the world will be doing this tomorrow. So at noon, we're going to start our program. And I want to thank the city so much for all of your help, chairs, tables, the podium, setting up. We really do appreciate that. Let's see, we have 204 wreaths that we have, which include the service wreaths. We have a person from each of the 7 branches, plus the POW MIA, that will be placing a branch wreath for us. Lunch is provided by Community Bank, and the fire department has been good enough to host us this year. So on the 2nd floor of the fire department, come back afterward, and we've got food by Lydia's and a bunch of donated food also, so we're very excited about that. The other thing is Rehoboth and Bloom. If you notice the name change, we got dinged, as did our DJ last year, that we don't play enough oldies. So, however, it's the line dances and those fun 80s dances that gets everybody on the floor. So we changed the name. So now it's the Bloom and Dance Party. So we can play whatever we want and the DJ won't get yelled at. So, it's a win-win for everybody. But also I wanted to tell you that today I sent an order for 849 flowers to Pepper's Greenhouse for our spring annuals. And we do have a request for 6 to 8 more planters, which, since Liz is no longer with the city, I'm assuming she'll be, somebody will take her place. And when they do, I'll be happy to work with that person. I think Liz and I had a great relationship, and I look forward to working with whoever takes her place. And we are hoping to get 6 more planters, or 8, we're not sure. But anyway, that's it. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
Always.
Always.
Cindy-
It's good, Tony.
Cindy,
I appreciate that.
On the planters?
Yes.
Are these planters that individuals have stepped up and donated?
Well, we have
how does that
103
work?
We have 103 planters right now, and that's where the money from the dance goes. That's where is to purchase the planters. Then we have a sponsorship program, which anybody that would like to can sponsor or purchase a planter for $400. And you get a plaque, and you do nothing, and it stays with the planter, and our volunteers maintain it year-round. So the dance is our big fundraiser, but also our sponsoring program is great. You'll see a plaque. Any plaque you see, someone has paid, the prices go from $350 to $500 for the planters, and then, so that's a fundraiser for us also. We also just get donations out of the blue from people, which is always blows my mind, but it's just wonderful. So, yeah.
Is this on the Main Street website?
I
where
have
could-
posted it multiple times,
Okay.
but Dan, do we have the sponsorship? Where'd he go? He left. I'm here. Oh, there you are. Hi. We probably don't.
I'll have to double check.
But we have a thing that's made up that we could, that's a very good idea, Tony. We will definitely get that up on the site.
Well, this is a program, when you said you can make a donation and I don't have to do anything?
No planting,
This is a
Tony.
program for me before
Nothing.
the end of
Yes.
this year.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, so I
and
need
then-
to get busy here.
Sure. When you donate a plaque, you let me know what you want on it. You know, either in honor of or in memory of, or a business can sponsor one in their business's name. And we put the plaque and get them made, and that stays there.
Will
and you
do.
do nothing, but you can walk by and pat your flowers if you
Love it.
want.
I love it. Thank you so much.
You bet. Anybody else? Good, thank you.
I just want to make one last comment to Mr. Banks. I want to thank the police department. When we do have these events, I really try to make sure, even if it's not our event, that we do promote it and we advertise it, is to let them know to contact the police department or Mr. Banks. That it's very important, you know, when there's crawls or activities going on. So I just wanted to bring that up, okay? Any questions at the end? Good? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next, under liaison is the senior center. That's Commissioner Chernowski, not here today, and I haven't seen any pancake breakfasts coming up, so that was the main interest a lot of times. With regards to the public library, perfect timing. Oh my gosh, on cue, we have Lauren McCauley. You can catch your breath if you'd like for a moment.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I meant to come over here like a half hour ago, but the insurance inspector showed up.
You know, life gets in the way, but if you could give us just a quick update. The only thing that I have to report is that, as was mentioned in the city solicitor's report, we are moving forward with the deed restriction change. So, Lauren?
Yes. And Kay has more information about that. She's out of town at a graduation party this weekend, so if you need more details on that, you can reach out to her. Other than that, things are going well at the library. We just had our part one of our annual Santa visit this weekend, so we had about 70 people show up for that. And we have a new youth services librarian, Shannon Davis. She's already doing an excellent job running our youth services library. Our previous children's librarian moved back to Dover, so we were able to fill that in over the matter of weeks. We also have a new part-time circulation librarian joining us in January. Her name's Sandy Myers, so we're looking forward to welcoming her to our team. We've had some issues with the building. Our heating system has broken down a couple of times, so we've been working with Sherman's to get that fixed. We also have been having a number of electrical problems, but Delmarva Power was able to come in and fix that back in November. So, yeah, I think that's. Yeah.
Sounds good. Things moving forward. That's positive.
Yes.
Any questions for the library?
Nothing for me other than thank you very much for coming here, for representing your organization. And I think you've been here a couple times now.
Yes.
And especially for letting us know what new employees or which new employees you've brought on board. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
No other questions? Thank you very much for perfect timing when you came in. On schedule, right? Now, moving on to old business, City Manager Miller, with regards to consider award for contract replacement of well number 6.
Yes, I'd like to turn it over to Kevin Williams, our Director of Public Works.
Thank you.
Thanks.
While he's getting ready, may I ask a question? It's not about this, but it's related to water. Evan, are we on track on the state road pump station time-wise? The schedule is still what you hoped?
Yes, actually, I just happened to send out an update on that project to you all, so I'll just read that update, and then certainly if there's any additional information.
You don't
Kevin
have
would
to
like
read it.
share.
I read it already.
Okay.
I was asking
Yes.
more just from a, timing perspective. Are you satisfied with where we are?
Yeah.
If you all are.
Yeah, they've been very good for us, yeah, without a doubt.
And the only reason I asked the question is yesterday, our neighborhood shook multiple times. The earth literally shook multiple times. And I was like, wow, what's happening here? We having an earthquake, but no, it was,
So if you may recall, back when we did the big excavation, we had to drive those sheet piles so we could dewater the hole to then build the wet well down in the ground. So now that all that's completed, we have to actually vibrate them to shake those, to bring those sheet piles back out of the ground. Then we'll just backfill
I
all
see.
that. So
Thank you for that.
That's what
Great
you're hearing.
explanation. It's not why I asked, but it did prompt me to ask, are we on track?
Yeah, and they're doing a great job. We're thinking that thing will be operational in February. Then we'll get landscaping and all the other stuff out there in the spring.
I will say, just as not as a commissioner, but as somebody who lives in the neighborhood, that they are very professional.
Thanks. I'll
They
pass that
kept it
along to them.
Very clean, very safe, which we appreciate a lot.
Yeah, thanks. That's good to hear, and I'll relay that to our contractor and our inspecting team that's out there. It's good, and you'll see some work here pretty soon, not by us, but by DelDOT's contractor doing the sidewalk that runs along State Road. So as soon as things calm down by us, somebody else will come in and cause some disturbance for you. But right, exactly. But on to the recommendation for a bid award for the Well 6 relocation. Just to briefly touch again, currently Well 6 is over in the middle of Breezewood. We've had issues with that. We want to drill a new Well 6 at the Well 8 site, so we'd have both 6 and 8 there at the site, very close to the treatment facility, really easy to tie in. So that's where we're trying to relocate that. That's just a closer up of the site, existing site, and you see it'll go back in the corner of that triangular area. We had two successful bidders, AC Schultes, who does a lot of work for us already, at $404,000, and Somerset Well Drilling out of the Eastern Shore area is about $623,000. So we're very happy with the 400 number. So we're recommending that the board would approve the award of Production Well 6 relocation project to AC Schultes of Delmarva, Inc., in the amount of $404,945.
Thank you very much. Any discussion among the commissioners?
Well, I just have a question, and it doesn't really matter, I suppose, but that is a big difference in bid prices.
So
Why?
Right, and they actually use two different methods, and I don't know enough to really know the difference, but they're different well drilling techniques. And the one that Schulte is the one that they like to use is what we prefer to have, so, and it's significantly cheaper, obviously, so, yeah.
One question, was this initial relocation project part of the CIP for
Yes.
this year?
Yes, it was.
And is it within range of projection? I know that
Sure.
was the estimate, but.
Yeah, we had a budget estimate of 650.
Right, okay.
And some of that includes the engineering that went along with it. So that was about 50,000. So we're at about 450 plus or minus of what we had 650 in the budget for.
And is there, or shouldn't say is there, but what is the plan for the decommissioning of the current Well 6 site?
We'll see that in the budget briefing.
Okay. So
Coming up at a meeting near you.
But it will be secured at the present time? I mean, it's not.
Oh, absolutely. And it has been, right. It's been out of service really for a couple of years. So once we get this up operational and everything's going well, then we'll go through the decommissioning process on 6. So, but it'll be in next year's FY program.
So we have before us a recommendation for a Production Well 6 relocation project in the amount of $404,494. And do I hear a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second?
404,945? Did I transmission? Yeah. What's on the screen? 404,945, okay? And we still have a little money that Kevin can spend
Yeah, we do.
elsewhere.
Yes, sir.
And I'm sure he'll find it. So we have a motion by Commissioner Preston, a second by Commissioner Sharp. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion passes then.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you. And we'll move along then to consider adoption of a resolution to amend existing license agreements for outdoor dining areas on the public space. And part of the embedded agenda is the draft resolution. And City Manager, I'll turn it over to you for beginning discussions.
Sure. So you recall that this was actually introduced at the workshop meeting. This is a resolution to amend the existing license agreements for outdoor dining areas on public space. You'll recall that when we originally adopted the ordinance that amended Chapter 215 restaurants, that set forth a procedure for establishing outdoor dining areas on public space. With that, both within the ordinance and within the design manual was an expiration date for all dining on outdoor areas on public space. That expiration date was December 31st. So back on September 15th of this year, there was an ordinance that amended Chapter 215 that allowed these restaurants that are currently party to a license agreement for outdoor dining to continue to operate, and that expiration date of December 31st would be no more. So that is what this resolution does. It authorizes the city manager to enter into addendums to those license agreements, and is on the agenda today, again, because those license agreements are expiring at the end of this month. I will turn it over to the city solicitor if he has anything else to add, but I think I've sort of covered it there. So.
I think you covered most of it. Thank you, Evan. Only thing I will add is that this is very narrow in scope. There's only a few outstanding license agreements. Claws, Lupo, Fins, Mason's, Famous Lobster Rolls. So there are only a few circumstances where this will apply. Right. And I drafted this to be narrow in the sense that it only allows the city manager to modify the durational aspect of the license agreements. It doesn't provide relief from any of the other requirements of Chapter 215 or the license agreements. So it should be pretty straightforward. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Do you feel it appropriate to read the resolution in its entirety, or are you comfortable with reviewing it as you in your packet? Commissioners?
I've already read it.
Any questions or concerns?
I thought that, I think the last time we talked about this, that there was really no downside to doing this. And we talked about there were only 5 of them at the time, 4 of which Alex just mentioned. I can't remember the 5th one, but it was going to be straightforward and it was going to be narrow, and here we have it.
And this is a result of having this in place, the dining on public property in place for 1 year. As we said, we would come back and review if there needed to be any adjustments to it, so we have found one. There may be others as we, again, review this at the close of next season, but I think that it is all in order. So if someone would like to make a motion to pass the resolution.
I'll make a motion to if I can get this right, to approve the resolution. The City of Rehoboth Beach authorizing the city manager to execute limited addendums to the certain license agreements for outdoor dining on public space for the purpose of extending the duration of said agreements.
Second.
I ask for a friendly amendment, and that should be adopt a resolution, not approve.
Okay, adopt it.
Approve the,
If we're okay with that.
the friendly amendment, Commissioner?
Love friendly amendments.
Well, thank you very much.
Second, the friendly amendment.
All those in favor of adopting the resolution as so cited by Commissioner Market, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you very much. And let's move on to new business now. That is to receive from advisory committees, specifically the Animals Issues, Street and Transportation, Trees and Green Infrastructure, Environmental, and Boardwalk and Beach Committee reports on specifically, 1, committee activities concluded in the past year, including agenda topics addressed, sources of initiation of topics and disposition of same. Number 2, ongoing agenda topics started but not yet concluded with the status. And 3, a list of potential future agenda topics, including how each topic was selected for future consideration and what the objectives are for addressing each topic. I believe that we have received that type of report from the Tree and Green Infrastructure Committee for 2023. It was distributed at the beginning of the meeting to the commissioners and will be embedded in the agenda right after the meeting. Commissioner Market, would you like to highlight anything here or begin through?
I don't know if there's highlight is the right word. I don't know, but this committee has been around, let's say, for, I couldn't even tell you, it's probably been, well, obviously it was under Commissioner Sharp's tutelage, and I was a member of the committee, and then it passed on to subsequent, Commissioners Susan Gay, and then myself. We have, I think, over the years, assumed certain responsibilities that we are pleased and eager to manage. And so a lot of what we do tends to be a continued or continuous. So, however, we do discuss, in many ways, hopefully different ways to, to improve engagement and access and so forth. I mean, I think more or less we're tasked to engage the public to try to give them awareness of our trees and as part of the overall quality, natural qualities, natural resources of the city. Obviously, most people think of the beach and the ocean and so forth, but we're somewhat unique in that we have the tree infrastructure that we have, and the need to preserve it and to be aware of it and so forth. So, I think we're capable of doing that. We have a small group of people involved on the commission and committee, excuse me, and we take it seriously, and I think there's general enjoyment in doing it, and so hopefully this report reflects that.
If I may, just to go through for those folks here in the room, the activities listed in the report begin with a commemorative tree program, the Arbor Day celebration, providing content to Lines in the Sand, and provide input for the proposed approved city tree list. Additional activities were educational lecture series, developing a tree tour brochure, developing an online tree map, and an ivy eradication project, and a tree giveaway or distributions to residents. Potential future activities listed include, in general, to investigate and discuss topics pertinent to stormwater retention and climate change, and also, in general, a continuation of our reoccurring projects, which were mentioned earlier. So, again, this will be embedded in the agenda docket online for further review. Are there any comments or questions about the report at this point?
I don't have at this point.
Thank you. Well, we will continue this,
Right,
certainly.
okay.
This is just the beginning. Commissioner Bennett?
Yeah, I had, so for animal issues, I'm the chair of the Animal Issues Committee. On the workshop earlier, I had submitted a document which was embedded, I believe, in that agenda. But I can go through, there were 13 key topics in 2023 that we worked on. I could just
Please.
relay what those are. The first one was a dog park within city limits. Second one was a PSA flyer related to leaving dogs unattended in hot vehicles. The third was messaging on the electronic billboard in front of City Hall to remind people not to leave pets and people unattended in hot weather. And that message would run every time it was over 90 degrees Fahrenheit in the area. The committee also recommended an update to the animal emergencies contacts. So if somebody had an issue with animals within their yard and/or there were other emergencies needed by a vet hospital or contacting DENREC, we worked with Lynn in the communications area who updated the website, also provided a list at the front desk in City Hall, and also provided a QR code for visitors and residents to scan to get an updated list of any emergency contacts related to animals. We had a recommendation from 2 residents to install dog poop waste station bags in our parks. We installed 5 of them. And I got a report just recently from Kevin Williams in Public Works that so far since June 1st, we've gone through 8,000 bags. And the bags cost about $60 a case, with an estimate of us spending about $500 a year on cases for bags. The 5 stations are being used. Those were installed at a total cost of $750. The labor is very minimal because we placed them already where the trash receptacles are, so it's part of the duties of picking up the trash is also putting in or refilling the bags for the dog waste station. There was some discussion related to feeding of wildlife. The committee felt that the signage was appropriate. We didn't need additional signage for people in terms of feeding, mostly the ducks in our lakes. One of our members on the committee, Cheryl Crow, recommended the city consider purchasing a microchip scanner to help lost animals, particularly dogs and cats that are chipped. And before we got to that topic, Carolyn and David Diefendorfer donated a scanner, which is housed at the police department, and they use that. We had discussed the idea of pollinator gardens. That was referred over to the Environmental Committee. We also, the city has placed additional signage at Poodle Beach on Prospect Avenue and along that way to let people know and to try to enforce the issue of no dogs on the beach. We understand anecdotally that has limited success in terms of people paying attention to the additional signage. And then the issue we presented at the last meeting in the workshop, the three big topics were dogs on the boardwalk, dogs on the beach, and then creating the season of dogs allowed on the boardwalk, changing those dates. And the commissioners decided to table that. There was no vote taken on those three issues. So those were the, again, this is embedded in the workshop session.
From
Document from December. Yeah, December 4th. Yeah.
Any questions or comments?
I just have a curiosity at this point. On the potential future agenda topics,
Right.
how do you think about going about that? Maybe it's a bit premature to ask, but I'm not certain how the committees are thinking about, with the backdrop of our vote, that we wanted more control as commissioners,
Right.
as to what the committees were spending time on, as well as staff time. I don't know how you are thinking about that, or if you are yet.
Yeah, I would say this year was an anomaly. As you know, I was out with a medical medical issue, and then with some changes internally here, we have not had a meeting since April. And so, but I also wanted us to clarify before we had any additional agenda items where the Board of Commissioners stood on the three main topics of dogs on the beach, dogs on the boardwalk, and having the dates changed. So until then, those were the issues that were left outstanding with the committee. And as you know, some other business got in front of us, but we were initially going to have that discussion in June or July here in front of the board, but we got pushed to December. So I understand that. So long way of saying there are no future agenda topics right now.
Okay.
And I will, in reporting back to the committee, ask them if they have topics they'd like to discuss for early in 2024 as part of, and then present them to the board.
Well, and that gets to my question. If we have, as commissioners, I thought, and maybe I've got it incorrect in my mind, that we had agreed already that the assignment of topics should be coming from the board to committees. Do I have that right or not? Because if I do, I'm wondering, does that supersede any discussion at this time with the committee? Because we have yet, as I mentioned earlier, to put in a process for how we're going to do that, which is a gap, I think, between what we've agreed to and then the execution of that.
I think you're absolutely correct. I think we're in limbo on that. My thought initially was based upon, and we haven't finished that discussion, you're correct, was when I got topics back, or when any of us get topics back from the committees, would be to present them to this board and then have the discussion as to whether we will discuss those items or not. But it does seem to be a little clunky.
I completely agree. It is clunky at the moment, and maybe during our January workshop, when we talk a little bit more about the general idea of committees and how we're functioning and where our gaps are and where our areas of improvement are, we can shape this up a little bit better. Thank you.
I agree.
Thank you. Any other comments? If I may just add, there is the committee handbook that does describe that process of the topics originating here with the Board of Commissioners and being assigned out to those specific committees. And if we can, at time, if you would review those procedures within the committee handbook, just to refresh yourself with them, and I'd also ask you to refresh those processes with the committee members. And perhaps
Was that ever done before? I don't remember in my 2.5 years us ever discussing what the topics were for committees.
I am not a committee chair, so if I were, since I was the author of the committee handbook, I would have shared that with the committee members to know their responsibilities and expectations. So I think that is a place to start, certainly. And what I'd also continue a little bit is that if you, in your next meeting, if any of those recommendations or topics would have a budget implication, you may want to bring those forward in a more expedient way, since we have budget discussions coming up in January and February. I know that, as you mentioned, the dog stations, a minimal impact, but still is an impact that needs to be supplied for in future budgets, perhaps for expansion or whatever may happen at that period of time. But again, those types of issues that are budget related, I think it would be fair to talk to the committee about them as soon as possible. And then if there are any that have budget implications, small or large, to share that with City Manager Miller so that can be incorporated in our discussions, because I think it would be rather unfair to bring them to the meeting at that particular topic point. We need to have a little fair warning of what would be coming forward. I have not received any report, end-of-year report from the Streets and Transportation Committee or the Environment Committee. I did have a report back from the Beach and Boardwalk Committee that they were, due to some emergency commitments and what have you, they were unable to do it for this particular meeting, but they will have it available for the next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, just a thought that came to mind. Does it make sense, Evan, for you to reach out to the chairs and request the information so that we are certain that we have it for the budget discussions? Sure. Rather than to, I mean, I know Tim's here, but others aren't, to make sure that we either do have it or we don't. And if we don't, we assume then that there is no budget impact.
Well, but I guess what I was thinking, that there's got to be some budget impact if anything a committee's doing involves city staff. That's important to know.
I agree.
For me. Okay.
I agree completely.
Thank you.
And I think, Commissioner Sharp, that Evan can help us sort that out.
One of the things that, as Commissioner Sharp mentioned, I think that that's very important, and we have not addressed in the past and had discussions with this, but other things took priority, but to determine overhead cost for departmental and their applications to certain committee expenditures, whether it be minutes, publishing agendas, newspaper ads, all of that information that are real costs that need to be addressed. So not that perhaps to not address it in this particular budget, but that once a new city manager is hired, that could be on that fire hose they're drinking from of issues to deal with, okay? So, any other comments?
So just so we're clear, so the thought would be in our January workshop, we would put together what the steps would be for a committee to forward agenda topics.
Yes, I mean, I would consult back to the committee handbook.
Right.
I think it's pretty well laid out in there, the process. But if you find that it's not, please contact me and we can review it. But I think that,
is that different than what we had voted on?
No. I think what Commissioner Goss said is too nice to say without referring back to my committee handbook, because I'm not a chair at the present time, is we have a process. We're not following it.
Right.
So bottom line, let's just speak the truth. If we're not following it, get the book out, read the directions. And then as part of our, maybe as part of our discussion of how our whole design of committee is working, we can have a more informed discussion.
I am totally confused. Because what did we vote on in October, November?
We voted that the commissioners wanted a more top-down, to use that phrase, involvement with what the committees were talking about.
Right.
And Commissioner Gossett, correct me if I'm wrong, that is already laid out in the committee handbook.
That is correct.
Right, so we voted on something that's already been there. We just reinforced it.
Because we didn't really say we're not following it.
Right.
I believe one of the discussions, to kind of bring it around in the sense that there was consensus that we wanted to determine what had been accomplished by the committees. That's the reason for the reports produced today, so that we could take an action, in essence, to review committee structure, just how functional the committees are, if those topics have been reviewed numerous times over the past years, decades, what have you, and so that we can get a handle on activity, and would there be a need to further address the committee structure as it currently stands, or introduce some type of new committee structure. And I think that is something that Commissioner Sharp had brought forward, and I believe that is on the agenda for the January workshop meeting.
Thank you.
Clearer?
So just a point of clarification, because I'm dense. Will we have the input that we need for budget discussions?
I can't honestly answer that, but I would, now that you've been made aware as committee chairs that that is a need, I would hope that you would respond and at least provide some general administrative cost, or not administrative cost, but actual cost. I mean, in essence, the Planning Commission, the Board of Adjustments, Trees and Green, or rather Parks and Shade Tree Commission, they all have line items in the budget for legal costs, office costs, that type of thing. So not to get that detailed with the committee cost, but some sense of budgetary authorization so that we can be prepared to fund these projects as they come forward. Again, looking at the one report that we have in front of us and the report that Commissioner Bennett provided last workshop, there are some reoccurring activities that should have costs assigned to them that should be in course. I'm just again, trying to create a place in the budget so that we can continue funding this information if the discussion goes forward, that's how we want to go.
Okay, thank you. I was getting hung up on bringing this information forward to the workshop and whether that syncs up with the timing of our budget discussions. That's really, but Evan can make that magic work.
Again, I don't believe we're talking in hundreds of thousands of dollars by any means, but still to, again, create that knowledge and that process of bringing the required funding of those committees into play, I think is necessary.
The thing that strikes me about this is that there are probably hidden costs that we don't see because it's staff time.
That's what I'm referred to as overhead costs, and those are
Thank you, Commissioner.
hard to initially capture, but once established, it's rather repetitive.
Thank you for the indulgence, Mr. Chairman.
Not a problem, thank you. So let's go forward then, discussing miscellaneous parking topics initially presented during the Parking Department's end of summer report in 2023. City Manager Evan Miller?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Vice President. So the commissioners may recall back on October 20th, during the regular meeting, we had end-of-season reports from various departments, Police Department, Beach Patrol, and certainly the Parking Department was one of those departments that provided a report. Included within that report were the identification of some of the challenges that we faced over the course of the summer. Some of these challenges are certainly challenges that have grown over the years. And included in that report was not just the identification of some of those challenges, but also some potential solutions. So we had mentioned after that report that we would be bringing some of these things back to the commissioners for their consideration. And so that is what is before you today. There are actually 4 particular topics on the agenda. And again, June Embert, the parking supervisor, Frank Lloyd, the assistant parking supervisor, and Judge Renee Bennett are here with us today to provide a recap of just a few of those topics that they had brought up. So really the purpose or the intent of the discussion today is really just to get some feedback and input from the commissioners in terms of if there is consensus to move forward with some of these potential solutions. So with that being said, I am going to turn it over to June.
And Evan, just to keep it straight in my mind, this discussion that June's going to kick off here in a minute is completely separate and apart from the immediate focus areas from the Rossi report that we just got.
That's correct.
Because I find the last page of this report very, very helpful to determine what we're going to do from this list for this year. And this topic is our follow-up to October 20th.
Correct.
Perfect.
Correct. So I believe another thing that was mentioned at the workshop meeting this month was the potential for some additional special meetings to talk about parking topics specifically, mainly in response to the Rossi report. So I think some of those meetings are still forthcoming and yet to be scheduled. So certainly those are the opportunities to talk about some of the recommendations from the Rossi report. We still also have to receive Rossi's final report, final recommendations, which we'll discuss at that time as well. But these are just specifically circling back to that end of season report, some of those potential solutions that we identified and wanted to bring them before the commissioners for, again, your consideration before we move forward in a particular direction.
Thank you.
Yes. Scroll through.
Thank you, Commissioners, City Manager. So the first thing that we have on the agenda is adjusting the parking citation timeframe to appeal from 30 days to 7 days. And we feel that this coincides with the 7-day escalation of the fee structure of violations. It allows the parker to appeal before the escalation, and the fine escalation, parkers are contesting the late fee and not the original violation. That's all I have on that one.
Judge, do you want to add anything to this discussion? So again, just to add a little bit more information. So currently, the city of Rehoboth Beach has a 30-day appeal window. So anybody who receives a parking citation has up to 30 days to appeal the citation. Some of the challenge associated with such a wide window for an appeal is that we also have an escalation that is inconsistent with that appeal window. So the first escalation occurs at 7 days. Often what happens is a citation is issued. People will wait to appeal the citation because they want to think about it, figure out whether they're going to pay the citation or whether they really want to appeal it. They may reach out to the parking department to ask a couple questions just to get some information to help them formulate their appeal. And during that time, at the 7 days, if it's a $30 ticket, it goes up to $45. In some cases, when that happens, because the appeal window is 30 days, my understanding is that occasionally we will also get an appeal for somebody who wants to appeal the escalation at the 7 days from $30 to $45. So I guess the recommendation is really to reduce the appeal window down to 7 days. Again, we're seeing appeals coming in towards the end of that appeal window, which certainly just adds on additional staff time to be able to answer those questions from the public, but then also to do a little bit more research and potentially adjust the escalation, because we're always friendly and we're kind to our visitors, to potentially adjust that citation a little bit after the appeal has been issued and they're ready to pay the ticket. So I'm going to turn it over to Judge Bennett in case she wants to add anything on this.
I think you said mostly what I was thinking to say, but the thing is especially this year, if you saw the numbers of the parking appeals that came through every month, that's a lot of time. Very much a majority of them are, wait, I went to pay and it was a $30 ticket. Why does it say $45 now? So right there, it's already escalated because they've waited over the 7th day. So I think it's when people have such a long time to wait, they tend not to do it. Then they'll get a late letter, and it just causes more problems. You know, you get a ticket, you decide, you're going to appeal it or not. Boom, 7 days, it should be done. And also, like June said, to correspond with the escalation. 7 days, your ticket goes up. If it's not paid, you should be able to appeal it with that. But a lot of the appeals this year were not appealing the ticket itself, but appealing the escalation. Mm-hmm. Why did it go up? So I think that's a big reason that it should coincide with the first increase of the fine.
Do, if I may, do we know why the history of that, why the 30-day was established as the appeal and 7 days for escalation?
I don't know.
It's been that way. It's been that way.
I think,
Always done it that way.
I think we also had done some research into the city code and the charter, and to my knowledge, we weren't able to find a reference to the 30-day appeal window anywhere in our code either. So we struggled with that in terms of trying to understand why the 30-day appeal window was set up to be so long. It may reference back to certain provisions within state code. I'm not entirely certain. But again, we just think that at 30 days, it's such a large time frame in order to appeal. Certainly, if there are visitors that are here, they're on vacation, they get a citation, we want them to come in, we want to work with them, we want to handle the citation while they're here in person instead of know that they have 30 days to appeal, throw it in the glove box, forget about it on the 28th day, appeal the citation, and it just creates a little bit more work for the staff, and certainly I think it's an inconvenience to the visitor as well.
And these citations are able to be paid online, is that correct?
Correct.
All right,
Correct.
Appealed and paid online.
okay.
My only question about this is that if you're here on vacation for a week and you've rented a place for a week or you rented for 10 days or 14 days, the last thing you're going to want to do is go on and pay your ticket while you're on vacation. And so, to me, I think the 7 escalation is way too short, because I think if someone's here for a week, whether they can get online and pay their ticket or they want to write a check or whatever, I understand that. So, I mean, do we agree that 7 days is a little tight to start escalating?
It used to be 48 hours.
48 hours? I just can't imagine being on vacation and thinking that, oh, let me pay this ticket.
So
I'd
that's
usually wait till I go home.
So the city commissioners took it from the 48 hours to 7 days. They also increased the time length of a meter violation, a permit violation, going from 30 days to 6, yeah, so you pay it after 30, it would go up, but they gave you 2 increases. So you had the 30 days, which goes up to 110, and then after 60, it goes up to 150. So they adjusted that time frame from 30 to 60. And they adjusted the 48 hours to 7 days.
48 hours is...
And the 60 days that you're speaking of, is that in effect for permit or?
That's for permit violation and meter violation, and a $30 fine.
What if you don't pay?
Eventually, it's going to go to collections.
Does it?
So in your review, staff opinion here, the theory to make the 2 days coincide, reducing 30 to 7, that, are most people paying within 7, or is there I'm just trying to determine the 7 the
Most
right
people
day.
call within the 7 days
Right.
to find out. They usually call when they get the citation, which brings up the other things that we're going to talk about. But I would say 7 days is good. Because once that fine increases to $15, they're already in infraction because they got the ticket. So they're already in violation. Then they're just, like Renee said, is contesting the $15, which is time and spent with Renee, the court, or the office staff, and enforcement for writing the citation.
Would it be more efficient if we were to review all 4 points brought forward before making any specific determinations on these or recommendations?
Certainly do that.
Does one interwork with the other in that regard as opposed to looking at these individually?
To an extent. I mean, I don't think they all are completely interrelated, but we could certainly go through the 4 together
Whichever
and come back.
you prefer, I'm just.
Sure.
And Mr. Chairman, what's being asked of us?
What's being asked is to consider actually reducing that appeal window from the 30 days to the 7 days. If there's consensus to move forward with that, we would then draft an ordinance and bring that, well, I guess we'd have to first put it in the code, and that would be an ordinance. that we would bring before the commissioners at a future meeting. There's also timing components to this. I mean, that's a part of the reason why this is on the agenda for today. I mean, parking department is getting ready to order things like tickets and permits and things like that. A lot of the orders are put actually at the end of the fiscal year in preparation for the new fiscal year. So certainly if the appeal window is changed from 30 days to 7 days, that's something that we include on the citation. So we'd want to update that language and have that ready for next year.
On this one, and yes, I'd like to hear the other three as well, but on this one, it reminds me of when Commissioner Bennett brought to our attention that we had such a simple issue in front of us to make all of our dates for the season coincide with other things, so it would be simple to remember, and it went to May 15th to September 15th. This seems very reasonable, that telling someone you have 7 days to do something, but something else is going to happen to you on the 7th day with the escalation of the fine seems very confusing to me. So a one stop, one step to me makes much more sense.
And it is on the citation that is issued. So the fine amount, how it increases, and the appeal date. So all of that is already there on the ticket when they receive it.
So,
Do we know what the other coastal communities do?
Some do 7. So when I researched it, it's about the same, the 7-day time frame.
Yeah, you mentioned here, consistent with other cities,
Yeah.
other beach communities.
Pretty, each one varies, but our neighbor is, I believe, is 7 days.
I think it is, because the last time I went shopping over there with a friend, got a ticket, and the friend decided he was going to pay the ticket in one of their drop boxes over there rather than deal with any of the additional time frame. He was like, I can't deal with this. So just went ahead and paid his ticket straight away.
So do I hear a consensus of matching 7 and 7, then we move forward and we'll come back to further direction, or do you want to just make the recommendation now to agree to 7 and 7?
I'd like to hear the other three and then just go back and check them off one at a time, and we're done with this.
Agreed.
Not that I'm impatient.
Duly noted.
Duly noted.
I'm going to go to this one first. Angle, perpendicular, parallel parking. So that would be 2 and 3. So we hear a lot of times about the head-in parking, the fine amount is too high. And we get that from visitors, which have the 2 plates from the states. And they're arguing that backing in is safer. So we would like to recommend that the fine be lowered from the $50 to maybe like $30, and then it would increase like the $30 fee. And then for the parallel parking, the citation amount is 15, and in my research surrounding areas, some have it 30 and some are a little higher. But we thought that 30 would be a good level fine amount for parallel parking.
Just a couple comments I want to make on this one, in particular the head-in parking requirement. So I want to give a brief background on the head-in parking requirement. So we have spent the last 4 years as a city investing in parking technology, specifically license plate recognition. So we have 2 vehicles, LPR vehicles, that have license plate readers on top of the vehicles. June mentioned 2 plate states, so Delaware is a 1-plate state. You're only required to have a license plate on the back of the vehicle. So the challenge that presents itself with the license plate recognition system is that we need to be able to view a license plate to check for paid time. So my understanding is we had a head-in parking requirement years ago that was removed from the city code, and then we put it back in when we implemented the license plate recognition program. Because the challenge that we faced was when we are doing enforcement on the street, the enforcement officers in the vehicle have to stop, get out if a vehicle is backed in. They have to walk around to the back of the vehicle, write the license plate down, get back in the vehicle, and type in the tag number. So it was extremely inefficient to allow people to back in, again, especially people from Delaware one-plate states. So we do get the argument from those from the two-plate states, those that have a license plate on the front and the back. Our argument, again, is that you have to park head-in because otherwise, if somebody from Delaware or a one-plate state looks down and sees multiple people backed in, they're going to assume that they can do the same thing. Certainly, communication of this has been a challenge, and we've adapted to it over the years. This remains a challenge in every community and every university that I have talked to that has gone to license plate recognition. So just to be clear, we advertise the requirement to head and park on our signage. We also, on-street signage. We also have the reference to it on stickers, which are located on every single meter. We have head and parking required on the intro screen to the meter and also on the exit screen to the meter. And then we also list the requirement on the receipt that prints out from the meter. If somebody uses Park Mobile, we also have worked with Park Mobile to send a push notification to anybody starting a Park Mobile session. Before the session started, there's a reference to the requirement to head and park. The challenge when we had implemented this, when we originally brought this before the commissioners, we had recommended a $30 citation. We wanted to, I think the desire was to reflect something a little bit steeper. We do have another violation in the code. I don't recall what it is off the top of my head. That is $50. So there was consensus to move forward, make it a $50 citation, but in the last few years, we have just received a lot of complaints, concerns from visitors that they didn't know of the requirement and that $50 is just too much. And that often, and the judge can correct me if I'm wrong, that's often a reason too why people want to appeal the citation. Because the fine amount is so much, they will do anything that they can to not pay it. So we do get a lot of appeals for head-in parking. Mainly, again, I think it is because the violation amount is just so high. So the thought was to reduce it a little bit in order to, still recoup the cost for the violation, but not to be, the violation to not be so high that people contest the ticket. Certainly, people will continue to contest the ticket. But
So what is the usual disposition of the appeal? I know, but what do we do about that? How do we close it out for them?
Well, if they're backed in, then they're going to be found guilty, and it was a $50 fine. So.
And when the other thing I'll add to that is when we first implemented this fine, the commissioners actually, and it might have even been in the code, the very first year we implemented it, we had to give out warnings for every single violation. Maybe 60% of the enforcement officer's time was issuing warnings for this violation. So the first year, everything was to be a warning. Everything after that was to be a violation and a citation. So again, since then, we've received some concerns.
I guess what I'm looking for is what is the compelling reason, other than someone complaining, that we would change this?
My thought was that I think that by reducing the violation amount, we could potentially see less appeals. That's less court time for the judge to review these appeals. But I think it was a way to, again, recoup the cost for the violation, but then to also eliminate some of the appeals that we would get and the concerns that we get from the public about it being too high. But other than that, it's...
Other than that, we really don't have a compelling reason. When people bring up it's safer,
yeah.
Well, that has to be balanced with our ability to enforce is being really challenged by someone who is not following the rule. So I'm grappling with this that for only the reason is I don't see a compelling reason for me to change it. I'm only one vote, so. Others?
I may back up one to earlier. What is the citation amount for a parking violation?
For meter and permit,
Yes.
it's 30.
30. And this is the suggestion of moving this to 30.
So all other traffic parking violations are 50 with the exceptions of buses, fire lanes,
And I guess what,
parallel parking.
I guess my thinking is that, well, this one is different because it challenges us with the license readers to even be able to enforce our own rules. So to me, it should be differentiated from any other parking violation. That's just thought.
Any data that you could share or Judge Bennett with regards to the volume of these head-in parking violations? I mean,
I don't have any numbers, but I mean that they complain that it's too high. And then sometimes the biggest thing that is I saw that, but I have 2 plates and it's safety. So I hear both of those sides. It's even though they have seen it, either on the meter, when they did Park Mobile, first they say it's just too high, and then they also say, well, it doesn't apply to me. That's what they're saying. Because I have 2 plates on my car, or I'm a police officer, and that's how we're taught to back into everything. They always have something like that. I'll be honest. You know, people say that. That's a safety thing. So, you know.
Is there any instance where you reduce the fine? You find them guilty but reduce the fine?
No, I use the fines that are there. I don't have any reason to change a fine in any way. If it's a $50 fine, it's across the board.
Okay, thank you.
No matter what people are saying about it. So.
and just remind me also, when a citation is issued, there's also a photograph taken of the vehicle
Yes, yes.
and the VIN number?
No VIN.
No VIN number, okay.
Mr. Chairman, I think I'm in agreement with Commissioner Sharp. If we have a rule, it's the rule. And if it's $50, then it's $50. Because what I just heard the judge say is 2 things. 1, she finds them all guilty. And 2, she doesn't change the fine. So, you know, changing the fine is probably not going to do much of anything, as best I can tell. So I'm with Commissioner Sharp. I would leave this as it is.
Are people appealing that?
Can you sit closer to the microphone, please? Yes.
Are they appeal, or do many people, I mean, I don't know how you're gonna win on appeal. What is would people appeal it anyway?
People do appeal it anyway.
Huh?
They do.
But they don't win, right? It just takes,
They don't win, and then they want to reappeal it, and they can't do that.
Well, they may assume that we negotiate our fines, and we don't.
Correct, and we
We
tell them
don't
that.
negotiate our fines.
I mean,
That's
I'm just trying to figure out how this is working. I would think you want to impose a fine that prevents the activity or makes people think about what they're doing and maybe not do it the next time or whatever. And you want to be able to get the money quicker, right? I mean, I think those are both solid objectives. And I'm just wondering if we're doing that, would we have less appeals? Would people be out of the system, so to speak, quicker if we were to reduce the fine, reduce the level of the fine, so then they get it, we get paid and they're gone? And I'm looking at it basically at the staff time and all that, and the staff effort. If you can reduce the staff time, and there's a net gain there, I think. And that's what I'm just trying to figure out, if that's the case.
Well, the argument's about safety, right? I mean, that's the issue. And so there's a number of cities I do know that require you to back in. And I've heard from people complain, well, I got a ticket because they don't want to get out and look at my plate on the sidewalk. So if we did not have the license plate reader, what would we do? Would we allow people to back in?
But we have a license plate reader, and that's our current protocol.
Yeah, so how we enforced parking before was actually walking enforcement.
Right.
So we had walkers in all the metered areas. We've now reduced that to just walkers on Rehoboth Avenue only because of congestion and traffic. So it is a much more efficient system using the vehicle. So if we were to allow it, it would significantly slow down the operations.
And we did have head-in parking before. It used to be called front to curb, but, so they did have it, and then the city commissioners kind of like dissolved that ordinance, and now since we went with the LPR, we implemented it back. So at one time, it was on the books.
June, which way was on the books? You got me confused.
Head-in parking. It was called front to curb way back
Got it,
when.
okay. Because I thought the last time we talked about this, we also talked about the congestion that this kind of parking causes, especially on Rehoboth Avenue. We already had this discussion, if my memory serves me. Hello? Is anyone there?
Yes.
Well, right, but
Say something.
I'm trying to imagine somebody backing into a parking space on Rehoboth Avenue.
I don't think you could do it.
They do it.
Oh, they do.
They do it.
They do it,
They do it.
right? I mean, and
Because
and I
aren't they
think people,
angled as the flow of traffic goes?
They are.
there's a, in terms of what I witness as people's ability to park, that's a tough move, to do that. So I think you ought to get fined for that.
Also, it seems unsafe
Right, right,
because of the angle of our parking spaces.
right.
I agree, and I try to look back in the aspects. We, as the Board of Commissioners, made commitments over the past several years to institute a park by meter, single meter, park mobile, and it informs them of head-in parking. We also authorized the license plate reader, and with that amount of information or commitment that we have made, not only to the physical plant, if you will, but also the commitment to staff, I think that changing this is not a wise move, and that I agree with Commissioner Sharp in the sense that this is a safety issue. If people are trying to back into a space on an angled space on Rehoboth Avenue, so that's how I express my feelings at the moment.
So can I say something about the parallel parking?
Certainly.
So when they're if you parallel park incorrectly, you're head on to incoming traffic. So that fine of $15, I mean, you also have a safety issue with parallel parking.
So that was another recommendation. I can't remember, it was 2 or 3. So we've talked about the head-in parking. Now we're talking about the parallel parking. So June, if you want to just reiterate, it's $15 now, and the
Correct.
proposal is $30.
Yeah, so some surrounding areas are 30 and 40, and we're charging 15 for that fine. But like I said, if you're facing, or if you're leaving your parking spot because you parked illegally, parallel parking, then you're facing the incoming traffic, or you're head on to the traffic coming towards you.
I think that one's even more dangerous than the other. I would say that should be 50.
I was just going to say, Commissioner Bennett, that to me, they should both be 50.
Yeah.
Do I hear a consensus with that of the Commissioner?
Yes.
We got one who said something.
Yes.
I did, Tim did,
Commissioner Marker?
Bunky?
To make both of these 50.
Perpendicular parking, about parking with the flow of traffic versus against it.
To move it from $15 to $50, the suggestion by staff is make both violations 30, which would be head-in parking requirement currently 50 down to 30, but parking with the flow of traffic currently 15 up to 30 is the suggested. But based on conversations, the discussion has changed to maintaining the head-in parking requirement at 50, and then also, based on safety issues, parking with the flow of traffic also up to $50.
I think for safety reasons, yes.
I just don't understand. I'm totally in agreement with this, by the way. Are you telling us that people try to parallel park backwards?
They do.
They
Yes.
do,
So,
they do all the time.
If you
It
look at the
happens-
picture at the bottom, you can see when the flow of traffic, and one car is the wrong way.
And it happens on the residential streets
Yes.
All
a
over.
great deal of the time where there are no meters. You've just got a parking permit, and it's just so easy to slip onto the other side of the street and go visit or whatever, but you're going the wrong direction.
Wow.
Yeah.
No.
I just saw one the other day on Second Street, right? Parked the wrong way. I
I'm
was shocked.
incredulous. I just would, it's a super big safety issue.
Oh, yeah. it's
And
huge.
that's why I would justify it in my own head, along with Commissioner Bennett and hopefully the rest of us, that that's a $50 issue right there.
I usually tell people, when you got your driver's license, it was in the manual.
Yeah. That is not part of parallel parking.
So just to kind of bring back for a moment here, discussion points 1, we've talked about, and currently we've addressed points 2 and 3.
2 and 3.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Let us move then to point 4, which is authorizing a one-time adjustment to the citation amount for certain violations of overtime parking.
Correct. So, okay, parking challenges. So we would like you to consider an ordinance that would provide a one-time reduction to 30 to 15 within the first 7 days of the citation issuance. This would apply to both situations, transposed license plates and Park Mobile when they choose the defaulted vehicle. So if we give them a one-time reduction from 30 to 15, then if they don't pay that within the first 7 days, it will escalate according to the fine amount. So it'll go 7.
I agree with this recommendation.
This is probably the culprit of most, if not all, of the phone calls that the parking department probably receives. So it's very easy, certainly at the meter or in Park Mobile, to enter your license plate incorrectly. The big challenge that we see, especially in Delaware, is PC. PC is a part of the license plate, and not everybody includes PC with the license plate. We have done our efforts from the code enforcement side to try and check the license plate with PC, check it without PC. We also have the occasional challenges with O's and zeros. And so similarly with Park Mobile, if anybody here has a Park Mobile account, you know that you can add multiple vehicles, but you have to pick a default vehicle. So we get the calls, I'm driving my wife's car, I'm driving my husband's car, I didn't switch the vehicle. So in every instance that this would apply, what we are always going to do is check our system to verify payment. And usually under these circumstances, what we do find is that they did in fact pay for parking. They just paid under the wrong license plate, or they entered the license plate incorrectly. So under those two circumstances, again, that we can find and we can verify that they did in fact pay, we're proposing a one-time reduction from $30 to $15 within the first 7 days. We kind of view that as a win-win to both the resident or the visitor and also the city, because they did in fact pay for parking, but they did make a mistake. We certainly have to recoup our staff time because it is a lot of work on our end to research the payment, check the license plate, verify the payment. So again, just as sort of a win-win, that was our proposal, the one-time reduction in that citation.
From my perspective, it's in the spirit of our, being kinder for honest mistakes.
And I would agree, to me, I would classify this as an unintentional clerical error on someone's part.
Right.
And I could easily support this.
Okay.
I've done this a few times. So,
I wasn't going to
no.
confess, Tim, but I have to.
This is a one-time deal.
right, but I guess my frustration with it, and other people I know's frustration with it, is there a way, and you probably know from the software, is if all of a sudden I realized I did it, which is what happens. I'm like, oh, darn. So I end up paying twice because I put the other plate in. But is there a way, does it give you 5 minutes or 30 seconds or whatever to go back and say, let me change the plate in the software? In other words, if I wanted to say I parked here and I go right back in and say I want to switch it to the other car that's on my account. Because what I end up doing is then going back in and paying for two. And
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
Well, that's why we're up $1
We
million
don't think
this
there
year.
is.
To my knowledge, there is not, but it does, the way Park Mobile's set up too is before, when you select the vehicle and you're ready to proceed to check out, as they say, there is something at the bottom that says this is, the vehicle that you are paying for. So it's sort of like a last minute check. We did also talk with Park Mobile about possibly doing another push notification to remind you to double check that information. That's something that they are unable to do. Because again, before you proceed to check out, there is something at the bottom that says you are paying with this vehicle.
Before you press that submit button, it asks you, are you paying correctly? And if you're not, then you can go back and
know.
change it.
But the
Usually in a
the
hurry.
submit button is quite large, and your motivation is to get done and move on, because you're going to dinner,
space
you're
limit.
going to
Right,
whatever.
you're late, and you're running late.
So I do have one question of how to administer
not
this.
alone.
We talk about, consider an ordinance that would provide for a one-time reduction. How do you determine it is the first time and the only time that you would do this? Is there a record kept, or how is that administered?
We do make notes under the ticket or the vehicle license plate or the owner. So if we can verify that the owner already had a warning, then they wouldn't get a reduction, because they already had a warning previously.
Right, so
So
then,
they were already told, you only get this one time. So the one-time reduction going forward would be for the people that are starting and they did something incorrectly within the first 7 days, and we go back and we verify it and we make a note. So we'll be able to tell that they had the one-time reduction.
So, June, we have to do it manually.
It's all done manually.
Thank you.
One time for how long? Forever?
Forever, per vehicle, per person,
Okay.
so is
of the
there,
owner.
So as long as you're in the car or you have that tag.
You might be an owner with 3 cars.
so I
you
do I hear
already were
consensus
warned.
among the commissioners to institute or consider an ordinance that would provide for the one-time reduction from 30 to 15 within the first 7 days of the citation issuance, when it applies to incorrect license plates or incorrect enters of the data of the license plate. Well, that's the same thing. What's the other one? Transposition and Park Mobile, wrong vehicle with Park Mobile, that's it.
I would be in favor of a one-time freebie. If they paid, and it was paid by another car, and you prove, because that's what you're doing, right? You're saying somebody paid, but I'm still going to charge you $15 for putting the wrong car in.
Is that
Okay.
manageable, or June,
So
share
here,
us?
it's manageable. We're kind of like doing that now. However, so the enforcement team is out there, they're writing the citation. They issue the citation. So that person now calls the office or comes into the office, and we have to, at that time, research the payment again. So I think that reducing it would justify the work involved getting to the reduction instead of a one-time warning, if I made any sense out of that.
Yes, I
So
understand.
there's no compensation whatsoever for the staff time if we were to go in the direction you just said, Commissioner Bennett. And we like it when you pay twice.
I know. I mean, how many are we talking about?
I don't know.
You know, I mean,
Are you talking like warnings?
no, and where this situation is where you're doing the research and you're coming back and finding somebody paid.
A lot. I mean, we're slammed all summer long, and even into the after the season.
But is a lot 100, or is it
Oh, more than that.
Hundreds, thousands.
1,000? I mean, that's,
Thousands.
I don't know what the,
It's, yeah, it's all the time. So we might have 3 people on the phone at one given time answering these problems or situations.
So it's thousands over the summer?
so these are people that did pay, just put in the wrong license plate.
Yes.
So we're in the thousands?
Thousands, including you.
And you, from what
You're
I understand.
welcome, you.
So Frank wanted to say something.
I just want to add, Commissioner Sharp says, earlier, a clerical error. So that does happen at the meter. So if you forget to put in the PC or you left the P off. In Park Mobile, there's really no excuse because you set up your account, You know what your vehicles are. It's telling you what you're parking with. So if you've selected the wrong vehicle, but you paid for parking, why would we give you a break? You're the one that selected that car.
And also, some of our visitors do bring 2 and 3 vehicles into town. So we have no way of knowing which ones only brought 1 car, which ones brought 3. So we got to kind of like keep it fair.
And I don't know if the judge has off the top of her head how many appeals she handled this summer, but I have a feeling it's in the thousands, I believe. And so, again, this was another attempt to eliminate a potential appeal from this, because we do get appeals from people. They're submitting copies or receipts from Park Mobile showing that they paid, they just transposed digits. So again, we're trying to limit that workload from the appeal as much as possible. So this would be another step towards helping on that end.
And is there been, if we were to proceed with this change, I would also ask that when we come back with the draft ordinance or what have you, that also there's a communication plan, if you will, of how we're conveying this information to the individual. To say, this is a one-time deal, we're giving you a break, we're cutting it in half, but you know, this is your only warning or your only reduction in time. Because again, if we're doing this internally but not informing the guest, and that.
So when they call in, I'm sorry.
No, go
So
ahead.
when they call in, we do inform them that
Right.
this is only a one-time deal. And then moving forward, whether you're in a different vehicle, being that you're the owner, that
Okay.
you will
Well,
get the.
and I think this may be one of the topics that goes back to the reducing the appeal window, because again, our goal is to have somebody contact us as soon as possible. And I think by having the appeal window at 30 days, they're reluctant to do that. If we can have somebody contact us as soon as possible, that's when we can begin our investigation. That's when we can work with you and figure out what we can do to help you. And again, this is an opportunity to help, certainly for those that have made a mistake. Maybe Frank would say in Park Mobile, they weren't, it was certainly their mistake. But again, you know, this was an opportunity for us to give them a reduction within the 7 days, and again, eliminate some of the appeals that we're seeing at Alderman Court and reduce that staff time. Because to June's point, again, I mean, the enforcement officers are out in the field, they're issuing the citation. The parking staff is then being contacted via phone. They have to explain the citation, why it was issued, what the mistake was, because oftentimes people didn't know that they transposed digits or used the wrong license plate. Occasionally they will catch it, but sometimes we do. And then in some cases, they take it as far as an appeal, and then the judge is getting involved in that. So again, I think the reduction helps eliminate, you know, that potential escalation and the additional staff time associated with that, so.
Any other comments? If you could review, go back over this. So what I'm hearing from the commissioners, the first one is the citation appeals. The request from staff is to change the time frame for court appeals from current 30 days to 7 days, which will align with the escalation cause of 7 days currently. The second, in decreasing the parking citation, that's a recommendation from 50 to 30, but what the consensus here, as I understand it, is to maintain the head-in parking requirement at $50, and also then change the parking with the flow of traffic citation to $50. Is that accurate? Yes. And then also indicate that we will draft an ordinance that would provide a one-time reduction from $30 to $15 within the first 7 days of the citation issuance, that would be applied in both situations of an incorrect license plate and wrong vehicles.
For overtime parking, sorry.
Yes.
I think, you know, since if everybody's in consensus with that, but I think that parking certainly is something that affects all of us in Rehoboth, and if there's any public comment, I would certainly be willing to take it at this point. Either place.
I can pull it down. Carol Everhart, Rehoboth Beach, Dewey Beach Chamber. I'll just add that when I hit a dilemma like this, I go to my front line. And my front line, which is your parking department's telling you they've got a problem unless they make some changes, I take that pretty seriously. Okay.
Thank you. I totally agree. The parking department in the city is immensely efficient and friendly, which is a hard combination to come by, but we certainly accomplished that through June and Frank and the staff there. So, so I would guess under new business to authorize the city manager and city solicitor to begin drafting ordinances to reflect the discussion of today.
Great.
And if you could come back to us within whatever time frame. Sure. Though I would ask you to expedite it as much as possible so that, again, we can update the information going out to the public through the Chamber of Commerce.
Of course.
Any further
Commissioner,
questions?
could I ask a question?
Certainly.
As far as that ordinance, currently the appellate window is not codified. Would you like that ordinance to include codification of the 7 days? Because right now it's not in the code, as Evan said.
My opinion would be yes, you can't enforce it unless it's in code.
Yeah, I agree.
Favor? Okay. All right. Let us vote on that then. All in favor of the recommendation for the city manager to draft the miscellaneous parking topics discussed today as discussed in detail? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Oh,
So moved.
second.
Keep me on my toes there, Ann. Thank you.
Thank you,
We have,
Ann.
we have a motion and a second. Now, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
First time out, boys and girls, come on. Okay, thank you very much for the very good presentation
I'm
and the
opposed.
conversation. I'm sorry?
I'm an opposed.
You're opposed? Okay.
I think 7 days is too short on the first one. I think it should be more like 10 days or something, but we can discuss that later, I guess.
Sure, well, I think the aspect there is the consistency. Again, 7 and 7 versus 7 and 10, what have you. But I would like to see, again, in the end of season report for next year of 2024, if we could come back with hard data as to the number of violations that were discussed in all of these.
Yeah, I
So
think
that-
we could actually bring that, some of that information back with the draft ordinance itself.
That would be very good.
We're looking at some numbers today. I think there were around 2,200 appeals that we received last year. So you figure the season's 115 days, that's on average 19 appeals a day. But we'll get those numbers together and make sure we bring them back before you all with the
That would be
draft
very
ordinance.
helpful.
Yep.
And, as going forward, if we have other parking issues to review, that hard data would also be very helpful. Of
course.
In making decisions. Moving forward, Commissioner announcements, comments?
None for
None?
me.
All right. Review future meeting dates. Get your pens and pencils out, folks. We have a January 8th workshop meeting at 9 a.m., a January 8th special meeting in the afternoon at noon. There is a January 12th at 9 a.m. Personnel Committee meeting. January 19th, a regular meeting at 2 p.m. Then also on January 19th, a budget meeting, the first of all of the budget meetings beginning at 9 a.m. that day, and followed by budget meetings on February 5th at 2 p.m., February 16th at 9 a.m., March 4th at 2 p.m., and March 15th at 9 a.m.
What was the last one?
March 15th at 9 a.m. I asked the city manager if you will share with all a specific calendar of those plus topics that you mentioned in your opening report that coincide with those particular dates.
Sure.
That would be great. Okay, that's all. Any other dates, meeting dates that anyone else is aware of? All right. Citizen comments. Anybody left out there? Yes, sir. Please come up and identify yourself in relation to the city.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Hoyt Decr. I live on the newly paved Laurel Street. Thank you very much. And I'm here today. Well, where is he? I've reached out to the mayor a couple times in the course of the last couple of weeks to indicate my interest in making comments about the parking and traffic study. I wasn't able to make the the December 4 workshop, so he kind of, well, he actually mentioned some of those other meetings that you're intending to do, but I can't do that, so I'm here today to offer my comments. I hope you'll bear with me. It won't take more than 2 hours, so okay. I've owned property in Rehoboth Beach since the 1970s. I've been a permanent resident since 1999. You may be aware that I've chaired and served on a number of city committees. I've also had positions with the Historical Society and the Homeowners Association. You may not be aware that I have a bachelor in business administration with a major in transportation. I spent most of my career in commercial aviation. I was with Allegheny Airlines when they had propellers. I was also with Pan American World Airways. But then I spent more than 30 years working for the federal government. I headed up the Aviation Consumer Protection Unit at the Department of Transportation. Having said that, my preferred method of conveyance is a bicycle. That's how I got here today. Well, anyway, in addition to the comments that were made in the presentation made by Alexis Morris during her December 4 presentation and your follow-up questions and remarks that day, my comments are going to flow from several other sources, specifically remarks made at a January 13, 2023 Planning Commission meeting, a report presented at the December 19 Board of Commissioners workshop containing recommendations and their status, and a September 14, 2018 report that Evan Miller gave at the time from his position as the Parking Advisory Committee Chair. I should also note that I've offered a lot of these comments previously, and so forgive me, I hope you'll bear with me. First item, parking garage. The garage issue has come up repeatedly over the years. I can recall a recommendation made by a city committee in the mid-teens, headed up by former resident Linda Kaufman. Ms. Morris said, quote, "Maybe now is the time," end quote, for a serious study of this issue. Commissioners Bennett and Gossett raised the issue in their remarks, with Mr. Gossett pointing out the ever-increasing expense per parking space. And my response to you, Commissioner Gossett, is that the state of Delaware should share in the responsibility and expense of building a garage. With the help of the state, plus a push from the YMCA of Delaware, and maybe a different attitude by the city toward shuttle services, a substantive opportunity exists to address the problem. The Sussex Family Y, if you know where it is, sits on state-owned property at the entrance to the city. The Y for years has sought nearby land to build a new facility. And coincidentally, a sizable piece of close-by land exists on Hebron Road, a portion of which is already earmarked for the Cape Henlopen Senior Center. I believe there is ample space that could be potentially shared with the Y. If those puzzle pieces fit, a multi-story structure could be built at the old Y location, and that could accommodate hundreds of cars. And a shuttle service operating frequent service between there and the bandstand horseshoe would get visitors to the beach and boardwalk in minutes. And I've got a picture here. If you could you pump that up on the screen for me? There it is. All right, thank you. Again, I'm sorry, I'm moving on to metered parking rates and dates. Ms. Morris, again, hit the nail on the head when she said, quote, "Parking in Rehoboth is too cheap," end quote. I recently visited coastal Carolina, Topsail Beach, and also Wrightsville Beach in North Carolina. And I Googled the population numbers showed up for 2021 for Topsail and Rehoboth. So for Topsail, the year-round resident number is 481. The summer numbers for Topsail were a little bit unclear. I couldn't quite get it, but it was somewhere 2413, 7801 are the numbers I got. Rehoboth was 1151 for year-round and over 25,000 for in-season. So this picture, I believe, tells it all. I think the city should consider a $5 per hour and an October 31st seasonal date. You might also consider moving the hours from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. All right. So I share Commissioner Sharp's concerns about pedestrian safety, the 30-minute parking issue. By the way, I like your glasses. And the overall question of enforcement. But as you can see, I'm running long already, so I'm going to skip those and move on to several issues that did not come up at the workshop, but I feel are important. Quote, remote, end quote, neighborhoods. While this comment is about shuttle services, which was discussed at the workshop, it's more about where they go. There is presently significant parking available at the Rehoboth Beach Elementary School. Here, too, a shuttle bus would be moments away from downtown. Similarly, a shuttle service could ply the roads of the more remote areas of the city. A two-tiered permit fee with a lower rate priced applicable to streets on the north side of the city could encourage people to park there. All right. So permit parking and painted spaces. Now, I'm arguing against myself on this one, but nevertheless, just as metered parking spaces are marked off, the city could increase available parking spaces and revenue where permit parking is used by, where parking is used by painting lines to demarcate each space. In other words, like on my newly paved street, we've got the yellow markings for the driveways. You could put the white paint in there just as you do on metered parking spaces. So anyway, getting close here. Off-street parking. At that previously mentioned Planning Commission meeting in January of this past year, the commissioner, what's his name here? Michael Strange, referring to the current city code, which is 27035, which requires 2 off-street parking spaces. He said that all of the houses that have been built, maybe not all the houses, but a lot of the houses have been built in the last few years, have 5 bedrooms, and renters bring multiple cars, taking up street parking. So several years ago, the Board of Commissioners took steps to control the zoning of new and rebuilt residences with increased occupancies, but it left unchanged the 2-space dwelling requirement. I think it's time to address this problem and up the number of off-street parking spaces. Last one, and I think Commissioner Bennett, you may have made a remark about this during the meeting. 15-mile-an-hour speed limit. And this is the last item, but it's the one that's most important to me. Speed limits on residential streets should be reduced to 15 miles an hour. I have expressed my concerns about this to the Board of Commissioners several times over the past few years, especially on my street, Laurel Street. And I would point out that an accident on my street, this is about two and a half years ago, at the intersection of Bayard, just kind of highlighted what the issues are with people speeding. On any Saturday or any Saturday afternoon or Sunday morning, congregants fly down my street trying to get to Mass on time. It's something that needs to be addressed. I'll give you another example. The commission has addressed issues about speeding on Munson Street recently. I went by there on my bike the other day, and some guy was coming down the street, flying by me, and he saw that sign that was flashing, and he reduced when he went by it. He was going 29 miles an hour. He must have been doing 35. But I mean, it's working, okay? You're putting out signage, not signage, but painting markings on the street to tell people that bicyclists are using the thing. And these guys are still speeding. There's scan attention paint to them. All right, I'm done. In the past, I've pointed out that other communities, Fenwick Island, Bethany Beach are two examples, have set residential street speed limits at 50 miles per hour. And we can do it too. Bottom line here is that if you set a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit, they're only going to go 25. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for your comments. If you have them written, if you could share them with us, I would appreciate that. But we will bring this back. These discussion points, I'm sure, are among the traffic study that we'll be looking at. February, I believe, is the next or final report from that. So, if there are any other citizens' comments, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Time.